All right, starting with the president, he's hailed the Constitution for advancing human rights and the human rights culture in this country. He says it is essential to changing people's lives.
Well, the president was speaking on the occasion of remembering 70 years since the Declaration of Universal Human Rights. The UN Commissioner, Bachelet, also attended the UN event where she praised South Africa's fight to achieve human rights.
70 years ago, the world converged in the French capital, Paris, to adopt a document that was to set the common standards for all peoples and nations. Drawn from diverse backgrounds, the document set out fundamental rights to be universally protected. No wonder our constitution draws inspiration from it. Hailed the world over as one of the best constitutions, President Ramaphosa says it must continue to champion the human rights cause.
For a constitution to be relevant, it must be a constitution that has life. It must be a constitution that people can see is alive and is able to act as a shield and defend their rights. It must be a constitution that breathes. It is neither static nor sacrosanct. It can and indeed must be responsive to the circumstances and conditions of the day, while addressing the lived reality of ordinary people on the ground, but also while living and remaining true to the principles and the values that it underpins or underpin it.
And the world has taken note, is often mentioned as a beacon of hope for the hopeless.
Mandela, Mama Sisulu, and so many others have inspired and greatly assisted our work across the world. Indeed, the entire human rights movement of South Africa has inspired us, with its reminder that no matter how brutal or how bitter life may be, the human spirit can overcome every kind of obstacle.
South Africa's constitution was signed into law by former President Nelson Mandela in 1996, on the same day that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by the United Nations 48 years earlier. While President Ramaphosa has made it clear that our constitution is the most potent tool to change the lives of ordinary people, he has also stressed that it must be responsive to the needs of the people. And he hinted at the possibility of amending certain sections to achieve that. Mzwandile Mbeje, SABC News, Johannesburg.
And let's speak to Mzwandile Mbeje on the line for us. Mzwandile, I think you've touched on many of the issues. We have this wonderful constitution, but not many South Africans feel it, live it. So, say the Alex shack dwellers, for example.
Absolutely, Francis, and I think the president recognizes that as well. I mean, he basically said our constitution is one of the best constitutions, and is one of the constitutions really that is being looked up to by so many people. But there are certain instances where perhaps amendments would be necessary. He mentioned the issue of the land, the issue of land that is underway now, to say as much as our constitution really is a good one, but for it to be able to fulfill all the aspirations of the people in the country, perhaps there may be a necessity that people of Alex, as you have said, should be able to benefit fully as well.
So today he also announced that the minimum wage will come into effect. Why was there any links made there?
Absolutely. I mean, as he was addressing that human rights event there, he did indicate that he was going to be going to Cape Town, where he was going to officially unveil the date where the minimum wage will kick in. And Francis, this is very important. I know it may not be sufficient, but it's a good step towards lifting a number of people, perhaps almost half of the workforce, between 6 and 7 million people, who will now earn at least something a bit decent. It's not enough, but it will have an impact to about 6 to 7 million people. So that's a good number. And of course, from here, they can only build on as they try to build a better South Africa.
South Africa has a good human rights track record, but in recent years, concern, for example, the Dalai Lama not coming, maybe we're accused of pandering to China. I presume none of that was mentioned today, our own human rights record in terms of how we deal with the rest of the world.
Absolutely. I mean, you know that our foreign policy, for example, is anchored on human rights. But we will not lose the fact that despite all of those issues, we are not operating in a vacuum. You and I are talking about creating better socio-economic conditions in our country. And there are instances really where the country will have to look at some of those issues. I mean, looking at the issue of the Dalai Lama. Remember, China currently is our biggest trading partner. Yes, you may allow the Dalai Lama, but what does perhaps that do to the economic interests of the country that you are trying to serve? So I guess the government really will have to strike a very serious balancing act there, whilst making sure that it really adheres to what everyone knows it about, which is respecting the human rights, but of course the economic interests of the country and growing economy, so that even those rights that are denied to people of Alexandra, to use your example, can also benefit. Those are all the factors the government will take into place.
All right, thank you very much, SABC reporter Mzwandile Mbeje.